All right, so what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, man. It's your boy, and today is a good day. As you can see, man, we have the key art for update 8.2. New uniforms coming for Jane Foster, Thor, Valkyrie, and our very first new character in almost a year. Look at this devilish grin. Ladies and gentlemen, Gorr, the God Butcher, is on the way. There's absolutely no way they would put this man in the key art if we were not getting him as a character in the game. Whether he's going to be playable at launch or he's going to be a new world boss legend that you have to take down and then later on they're going to add him to the game, that remains to be seen. However, the fact of the matter is, Gorr the God Butcher will be added to Marvel Future Fight to some extent, and I am here for it because he's one of the coolest Marvel villains. I absolutely love his backstory, and I think if you've ever suffered any kind of hardships in your life, you can probably relate to this guy's origin story, and that's why I'm going to be going over it in this video. Now, when it comes to Gorr's origin story, this happened 3,000 years ago on a planet without a name. If you want to actually get the full story of Gorr, make sure you check out Thor God of Thunder issue number 2, but we're going to go over it briefly here, and this is a tragic story of endless pain, suffering, and death. So it starts off on a planet 3,000 years ago. Planet doesn't have a name, and this is Gorr speaking to his mother. He says, "I'm hungry, mama." And his mom replies, "I know, my love. That is why we are here." To which Gorr responds, "But that was our last cave apple. Why can't I just eat it?" His mom responds, "We are leaving it here in this sacred place as an offering, my son, so that the gods will watch over us and keep us safe." Gorr replies, "But if we pay them to watch over us, why didn't the gods take care of daddy when he got the sun shivers?" So apparently Gorr's father died from some type of disease. So as a child, you would obviously have questions. Why are we paying prayers and offerings to these gods if they're never going to protect us? That is a question that Gorr had from a very, very young age. To which his mother replied, "Your father lived a long life, almost 30 summers. The way I interpret that is 1 summer is 1 year, so he was almost 30 years old. The mom continues, "He lived to see his only son grow strong, and we will see him again, my dear, someday when the nights come. He'll be there in the sky with the rest of the blessed ancients shining down on us." After which Gorr replies, "But why can't I see him now? Why can't we ever see the gods? Why are we paying tribute to people who are never going to take care of us?" To which his mother responded, "You will see them someday, all around you, once you truly believe. Always honor the gods, my son, and they will shower you with blessings as they have me. You are my greatest blessing, my darling little boy, my beloved Gorr." To which Gorr replied, "I do, mama. I think I do." Immediately after that, they're actually attacked by these creatures called sun tigers. And while Gorr is in a panic, his mom instructs him to run and not to look back. After which she is killed by these sun tigers while Gorr makes an escape. Fast forward some years later, you can see Gorr is now a full-grown man and he has a wife and children of his own. However, his suffering has not ended. He went from a starving child that believed in the gods, whose mother sacrificed herself to protect him, and even after all those years, his circumstances had not changed. He's still suffering, starving to death constantly, and although he's trying his best to stay faithful and believe in the gods, no relief has ever come to this man in his entire life. So you can kind of see how he devolved, how he became the person that he eventually became. However, let's take a look at the dialogue here between him and his wife. He says, "I'm sorry, but it's all I could find. Some little worm creatures and a few plants, it looks like." He tells his wife to eat this, to which she responds, "Don't worry, Gorr, the night will come soon." Similar words to what his mother told him when he was a child. The sky gods will hear our prayers at last, to which Gorr replies, "Please, just eat, Ara, you need your strength." To which his wife responds, "This one doesn't sleep. He's going to be a great hunter and an explorer. I can tell, just like his father." Gorr responds, "A great hunter? The children sleep, though I can still hear their stomachs growling." Essentially saying, if I'm such a great hunter, how is it that I cannot provide for you and my children? After which we get a close-up of Gorr as a grown man, and you can see the years have not been kind. He looks defeated and depressed. He lets his wife know that they're starving. The whole tribe is starving, and their caves are all but empty of salt worms and what little dampness they can lick off the walls. And on top of that, they have to go out in the sun. Man, you can tell from the moment this guy was born, it's just been pain, suffering, starvation, and death. But through all of that, there are still people who believe in the gods, and his wife tries to console him by saying the gods will provide and that they always have, and you just have to listen for their voices. However, after this, another tragic moment in this man's life occurred. His wife is immediately killed while she is pregnant with his child. Fast forward a few months later, we see Gorr walking with a few members of his tribe, and they're just dropping dead left and right from dehydration and lack of food. We also have his last remaining child here, Agar, and he's asking for his mother, to which Gorr responds, "Your mother has been dead for 7 sandstorms." However, through all of this, Gorr is still trying to remain faithful and believe in the gods that one day soon, even after losing his mother, his wife, and several of his children, that eventually the gods will answer their prayers. So in order to comfort his child, Agar, he lets him know that they will be there soon. And when they get there, there will be a forest and a waterfall, and you will be able to eat as much as you want. However, shortly after this, Gorr's son dies, which is really tragic. And this is the turning point in Gorr's entire life, because up until this point, he's followed the traditions and the customaries of his tribe, and he's believed in the god until they took literally everything from him, leaving him to suffer and eventually die alone. However, take a look at this. He buried his son under the ground, which is not something that you're allowed to do in Gorr's tribe. And because of this, he was actually exiled from his clan, because the members of his tribe believed that by hanging the body of the dead in the trees, they would be accepted by the gods, and Gorr having buried his son under the ground was essentially him damning his son. However, Gorr responded by saying, "Forget your made-up damnations. We are all already damned. Right here, right now. Open your eyes, you ignorant bastard. We moved from one dried-up cave to another, eating slime off the bottom of rocks, leaving a trail of our dead behind, under a sun that will never set. We are all going to starve and burn." So you can see the rage and frustration is at its tipping point in Gorr's life at this point. To which his tribe leader responds, "Be careful of your blasphemies, Gorr. The gods hear your every word." To which Gorr responded, "The way they heard my mother's prayers when she was eaten alive right in front of their idol, or when my wife's prayers for an entire life lived in obedience to them, my wife who was sucked into the ground with her child still in her belly." So you can see the rage and frustration is building at this point. He would rather die than be subjected to any more of this torture. He's been made to live to watch everyone around him die, his father, his mother, his wife, his children, and there is no sign of salvation in sight. So although he may have been breaking the traditions of his tribe, I sympathize with Gorr, and seeing him struggle like this makes him a very relatable character, because he's not inherently evil. He was just made to suffer to the point where any reasonable person would forsake the gods. However, the tribe leader says this was going too far. And because of this, like I said earlier, he was exiled by his tribe. They kicked him out and stoned him almost to the point of death. However, as Gorr was on the point of death, something miraculous happened. Two gods who were in the middle of a fight actually crash landed on his planet. And this is the tipping point in Gorr's life, because although he had believed in gods at one point, or he thought he had believed in them, he'd never actually seen them up close and personal. And here there were two gods face to face in battle, and one of them had the audacity, the sheer unmitigated gall to look at Gorr, who has been suffering for decades, and ask him for help. Ladies and gentlemen, what would you do in this scenario? These gods, all powerful as they are, ignoring your prayers for decades, and now here you are face to face with someone who could have saved your mother, your father, your kids, your wife. Would you help them? Me personally, I don't blame Gorr for what comes next. Where were you? Where were you when my children were starving? When my wife was screaming for your help? When my mother was being butchered like an animal? Where were you when we needed our gods? To which there was no response. However, Gorr's rage and frustration was building, and at that point, it had built up to the point where the sword that the black god was using to fight the gold god was immediately drawn to Gorr's hand. And what comes next? Well, you'll see for yourself. He butchered his first gods and made it his mission that he would set out and kill every single god that has ever existed with the help of All Black, the Necro Sword. And this is the origin of Gorr, the God Butcher. Let me know what you guys think of his backstory, man. I think it's amazing. Honestly, I think it's well written. I think it makes sense. He's not just an evil guy that's evil for the sake of being evil. He thinks if you're a god, you're supposed to help people when they're in need, especially if they believe in you. He may have not believed in you, but the people who died believed in you, and you failed them. So because of that, he's decided now he's justice, he's vengeance, and he will have answers. All gods must die.